Well, welcome everyone. We're excited this evening to be talking a little bit about some of the periphery towns and cities around Calgary and some of the economics and opportunities. So we have quite a few members of the team here this evening, which is exciting. And everyone's going to be kind of talking about different areas that are worth, I think, some further consideration and exploration. Of course, there's been lots of interest in Calgary over the past several years, especially from other provinces with the relative affordability, new job opportunities, things like that. But some exciting things happening in the periphery areas as well. That many of the areas do generally follow the Calgary market, but some unique things that are happening and some unique opportunities. So we're going to get started here right away, and we're going to get started with Natasha.
All right. Hello, everybody. Good to see you guys for another real estate social. I'm going to be talking really briefly about the Red Deer market, but I also kind of wanted to say um, the point of kind of what we're talking about here is to be strategic, right? What we've always kind of focused on here at Phipps Real Estate Group is to try to be ahead of kind of what's going on out there and be thinking ahead, thinking about what are people doing, what is the economy doing, and how can we as real estate investors use that information to think ahead. So I'm really excited about tonight to be kind of shining a light on different things around the Calgary area and what might make sense for your price point and your strategy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Red Deer. I did go to an event earlier this year in Red Deer, and the what was really interesting. I know there's a lot of text on this slide, but what was really interesting at this event was this was a Invest Plus REIT event. So they do industrial real estate investing, and the which I did not even know this, was that there's Red Deer and then there's Red Deer County, and they are two very different things. And at this event, the economic development director, let's call her, came out from the Red Deer County, and she's the head of economic development for Red Deer County. So, and I was really impressed with the amount of thought that and planning it like far ahead is going into Red Deer County specifically. We all think of Red Deer, of course, and we could talk about that another time, but I really want to shine a light on Red Deer County. So if for the Albertans out there, when you're driving from Edmonton to Calgary or vice versa, we all stop at Gasoline Alley and we all get our gas there, or the famous donuts at the one stop there. And so we all see it, but very rarely do we stop. And when I was there last, I actually drove in behind where all of the gas stations and services are that support the highway. And I was really surprised to see how much residential housing was going in right in behind there. And so that kind of started getting my wheels turning a little bit and started paying attention a little bit more to this area. And oh, I say I didn't even put airport right. The development is going quickly there, and that is because of demand, of course. So when we're thinking about any sort of economic improvements, that attracts jobs, which attracts people, which then means they need housing. And what's happening really interesting, two huge things happening currently today, and then a lot more in the works. And what I really love to hear from the economic speaker was that they are focusing on diversification. So we all think about Alberta and we think about energy, and that's very important. But there was a lot of time spent on the agriculture sector, on manufacturing, and on shipping and receiving, of course. So there's a lot happening, but one huge thing is the Red Deer County Airport. I had no idea how substantial of a development that this is going in. So if you haven't like researched this at all, I highly suggest going to read all about it on the Red Deer County Economic Development website. They have a really cool map and it's interactive. You can see what is kind of coming for the future. So all of this creates jobs, and that is a significant investment into the area that will support, of course, all of the businesses around it. So that is a huge one. And then when it comes to distribution, manufacturing, of course, we all think about logistics, which is a big thing. Where the Red Deer County obviously is positioned right on the highway, trains, cars, and semis, of course. There's a lot of distribution happening out of that little sector. Land is very cheap for these large, companies to get set up in the Red Deer County area. And then the other little tidbit I learned as a real estate investor hat is your taxes. Taxes are actually lower when you go over that county line. And so from a you know, uh, company's perspective, if they're choosing where they're going to call home, those are things that they are looking at. So property taxes were another benefit. In thinking about oil and gas, of course, that is an important one. But the Red Deer region is kind of known for Alberta's head office for the oil field production services kind of side of things. So Calgary, we have a lot of the corporate head offices, but this is where we are talking about oil fields production services. So lots of jobs being created there. The third one on here, which was another huge thing I had sort of heard about, but I didn't quite understand how large it was. When it comes to P&H, and they announced about a year ago the construction of their flour milling facility in Red Deer County. $241 million investment to build this facility. So they are seeing the benefits of being located there, being close to all of the distribution opportunities when it comes to rail and planes, of course, right off the highway. So there's a lot of opportunities to get their product to market. And I think where they were going with this when they were talking about this at the event was just that leads to others following, right? So when something works, other people follow, which creates jobs. So I was really excited to hear more about that. If you are interested to learn more about the area, I think benefits are lower price point for us as investors, but the rents are quite good actually. And they don't nearly have the level of construction happening like we may have in our backyard here. So I do think this little pocket here is worth considering, especially if we are wanting to be conscious with our budget and we don't want to get stuck buying a condo. Your price point will go much further in Red Deer County and could be just something to consider as a little bit of a different option for a long-term rental property here in Alberta. And we do have referral partners in the area. So if you are interested in this area, I do have a couple referral partners that I've worked with previously in the past. So if that's of interest, just reach out to us and let us know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, so we're going to switch it over here. And if there's questions along the way, please don't hesitate to just unmute yourself or put it in the chat. So we're going to be going through quite a few different areas. But next up, we have Heather, and she's going to be talking about two different areas. So I'm going to hand things over to you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Heather. The first area I'm going to talk about is Strathmore. So it's a town about 40 kilometers outside of Calgary to the east side, and it is about a 30 to 40-minute drive into Calgary. I actually used to live there up until 2 years ago. I lived there for 16 years, so this is kind of my old stomping ground. So in Strathmore, the sales are up about 13.6%. So they had 25 sales in the month of September, but the inventory is also up. So there is 101 houses or units, I should say, on the market. Benchmark price is 438,400, which is up 2.7%. And that includes all types of properties. If you look further down, it says detached homes. The benchmark price was 559,300. And the months of supply are about 4 months. I currently have a house on the market there and it is pending, but in the community that we were in the price range that we are, there was only actually two or three other houses. So even though it says months of supply, four, it really depends on what you're looking for in that area. So if you look, you can see that row price houses, 293,900. Apartments, there's not a lot of apartments in Strathmore, but 242,000 is kind of what it's saying. Semi-detached, 433,300, and then your detached, as I mentioned before, 559,300. They are growing though. There is a lot of new construction going on. If you want to flip to the next page, Andrea. Okay, so some of the attractive features of Strathmore, and that's what drew me there as well, is when I was first wanting to buy my first home, I at the time was a young single girl and I couldn't afford Calgary. So I moved out to a community in Strathmore where I was able to build a detached house for the same price that I was being told in Calgary I would get a semi-detached property. So it's very easy access, Highway 1. Obviously, it serves the local workforce and a lot of Calgary commuters. It is a growing appeal for families seeking affordability and space. So population in the last 5 years has went up by 9%. So 16,189. I think when I was there, when I first moved there, I think it was like 8,000. I was there like for 16
Wow.
years. So they are expecting to get about 35,000 plus residents by mid-century. Infrastructure expansion supports both sustained growth, and it is the perfect timing in this community to kind of buy before some of the announcements or some of the companies that are coming, which is on my next slide, that some are coming. So economic drivers, de Havilland Aircraft of Canada Manufacturing Campus is coming to Wheatland County. So hiring began in 2025 for nearly 100 full-time positions. And they are going to be hiring about 1,500 more jobs in the campus nearby. So that's going to bring a lot of growth into Strathmore. One thing I have heard from some of my local connections in Strathmore that there is a potential that de Havilland, and I don't know this is just what I've heard, may build their own kind of community around where they have their manufacturing plant. So if that's the case, maybe the resale in Strathmore might not be affected as much. That's not confirmed, but it's still going to bring a lot of money into the community. So Strathmore will benefit from, there will be some housing demand, new jobs, supporting trades linked to both these major projects. And another thing coming is the CGC manufacturing plant. So that's a $210 million investment to build a new manufacturing facility in the Wheatland County area as well, just outside Strathmore. Once again, hiring began in 2025 for nearly 100 full-time positions, and operations are set to launch in 2026. So obviously creating more employment, supplier and service sector, you'll see growth there, and it's going to strengthen Strathmore's industrial base. If you want to go one more. So before I kind of summarize why Strathmore, Strathmore does have everything. It's a small town feel, but it has all the amenities you need, or Calgary's very close, but we have rinks, curling rinks. We have Catholic schools, public schools. We have indoor pool, hotels. It's really a nice place, but it does definitely feel like a smaller town living. So one of the things that is driving people out here is the affordability, right? As Calgary prices rise, buyers and renters are turning to communities like Strathmore, where homes still remain attainable without them having to give up so much of what they want in life. Lifestyle advantage as well. Strathmore offers the big city amenities that I mentioned with small town feel. Um, we have great hospital, shopping, recreation. I actually just heard that Chick-fil-A is going there. That seems crazy, but I'm not sure. So if you look to the map on the left, you'll notice that Strathmore is 559,300, but Calgary is 749,900 for the benchmark price. So for 200,000 less, you can live about a 35-minute drive to the edge of Calgary. And so that saves quite a bit of money for you. So I also know that vacancy rents are quite low in Strathmore, so it is a great place as well to purchase something where you could have your renters. I think that's what I say in the last part with low vacancy, rising rents, sorry, and the new supply, de Havilland and CGC coming 200,000 under Calgary. It is a great place to check out as far as some strong cash flow potential.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
I think this is so exciting with those two developments, like from a economic standpoint. So I think I read in Western Canada, we have not manufactured our own like drywall in a very long time, like decades upon decades. And it really speaks to what many of us agree we need to be doing in Canada, which is like manufacturing in our own backyard
Yeah.
instead of importing everything. Um, and this, airplane manufacturing like is that facility is going to absolutely change the entire east side of Calgary. This is not a small little facility. It is massive. They are building a runway to test airplanes on. Like they're going to have their own runway. It's going to be its entirely own um, plant to be able to design, manufacture, test all of that right on site. So it's going to be really impactful, not just for Strathmore, but even, the east side of Calgary there. Like it's really going to create a lot of jobs and opportunity. And what I love about like highlighting these areas when these are kind of the first things like this coming to an area, that just means other companies will follow. When something works and it works for a company, other companies will look at it. So both of these things are awesome in that they are not related to the energy sector, providing more diversification that we all want to see in our province, and more jobs. So, yeah, I'm just really excited about both those things for the east side of Calgary.
Mhm. Okay, so now this is now where I currently live. So I lived in Strathmore for 16 years, and then 2.5 years ago, we moved to Harmony. So this is now, instead of being east of Calgary, we're now west of Calgary, in the Springbank area, kind of near Callaway Park. So this is a lake community. If you just go to the next slide. So I'm very passionate about Harmony. It's basically a town that started from a field. So there was a family, the Copperthorns, they wanted to create a legacy, they wanted to create a town. And so they partnered with a development company to basically take dirt and make it one of the biggest man-made lake communities in the Calgary region. So it started in 2014 and it's expected to be completed in the next 10 to 15 years. Once it's completed, Harmony will be over 1,750 acres. Currently, there's over 700 homes or units, depending on if it's a semi-detached or townhouse, built, or permits have been pulled to start digging. At full development, Harmony's going to have over 4,500 units. Harmony will offer and does right now condo style townhomes, freehold townhomes, semi-detached properties, estate homes. We have carriage suites and then also basement suites. And then what is coming, there's going to be luxury villas. There's a lot of acreage families in Springbank that don't want to give up that lifestyle. They don't want to move into Calgary, so they still want to be out in the Springbank area. So there's going to be some luxury real estate lakefront villas coming. The other thing about Harmony that's really cool, right now there is a 40-acre lake which has been completed for several years, but the second part of the lake, which is going to be another 100 acres, they have just finished or are just finishing 70 acres of that 100-acre lake, and they're going to start filling that from the Bow River next spring. Once that's finished, then they're going to finish the final 30 acres. So altogether, it will be a 140-acre lake that they adjoin, and you can paddleboard or whatever right underneath the bridge, and then cars can commute over top. Once it's finished, it's going to be the largest lake in the Calgary region, as I mentioned. 30% of Harmony is dedicated to green space compared to only 10% required in Calgary. So it is definitely, I mean, they're building a town, but they're building a town that's going to very much have a balance of parks, outdoor walking trails, nature. It's a big factor in the decisions of the designs of Harmony. Okay, and another huge thing that's amazing about Harmony is just outside Harmony is Bingham Crossing is going to be coming. So Costco will be opening, they say, in the fall of 2026. So that's just about a 5-minute drive outside of Harmony. So everybody knows what happens once a Costco comes and all the commercial building stores that come around it. Well, then that's only going to be a 5-minute drive from Harmony. As well as Harmony has just outside of Harmony is the Springbank Airport. It has the Edge School, which is a private school. You're very close to Callaway Park. Some of the schools in Springbank area are very sought after, and you can only go to school there if you are in the Springbank community. Now, with Harmony, if you see on the left, this is at full development what it will look like. So all of like 15, 16, all the way around to the left to 31, none of that exists yet. All of the red obviously is complete. So if you look where the word Harmony is, the lake below it, that's currently what is there. Lake B is what they're working on right now, where there'll be the other 100 acres. And that number 24 is going to be a big island that goes into the lake. Um, they've just released 7 lots on the lake in the first phase of the next expansion, and the highest lot was 1.5 million for the lakefront properties. Those would be the big pies, but I think even the smallest lake lot was 1.1, I think, and they all have holds on them. So they just released 7. So basically, in this community, you can get in the fives into some of the phase 27, phase 28. Phase 28, they are going to be doing some 0 lot lines properties, and then they have some very narrow lots with basement suite development. So you can get into those high fives, low sixes, and then you can go all the way up houses, townhouses, 700s, 800s, 900s houses, kind of that would be your like 800 maybe starter house, and then your semi-estate is kind of like your 9 to 1.2 million, and then from 1.2 all the way to the sky is the limit based on them releasing these lake lots. So if you think about some of the lake communities in Calgary as they expand and they finish developing, then that's when the prices really go up. So I just feel like Harmony is one of those areas. It's in its infancy. It's got the Mickelson National Golf Club. It just went private. It's got the launch pad, which is kind of like a Top Golf. Village Center is breaking ground next spring, and they're going to be putting in, Base Camp's putting in a Nordic spa. So there's just so much coming. So if you think about, you have your Costco, you have all of the development of Harmony plus Village Center. If you think that it's another 10 to 15 years until this is fully grown, prices are only going to just keep going up. So I'm a bit of a fan of this community.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, why choose Harmony? Okay, I think I just summarized all that about the Village Center coming. Also, too, you're like 30 minutes probably to Canmore. Um, so you're very close to Banff, you're close to Canmore, you've got your golfing. It's a really quick access to Stony Trail. And it's a Northwest community. There's not very many, I don't actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Natasha, but is this o the only lake community in the Northwest of Calgary?
There's
Well,
Arbor
Arbor Lake,
Lake. Yeah.
Arbor Lake. Yeah, okay.
but that's a very tiny lake.
Yeah, yeah,
It feels more like a pond, but
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. So I tried to
Um,
show the mountains in the background. I didn't want to
I
show
was gonna
snow,
say
but
the
I'm like, well, you
mountains.
can
Yeah.
see the mountains. So
Heather also owns an investment property in Harmony, which I don't know. Heather, you've had a great experience with that as well, right?
yeah, I actually should say that too. Another, and that's the reason we invested too. When we moved there, we needed to rent until we could get a house built. And so what I learned is when people want to move to Harmony, they instantly want to live there. They and some obviously you know that some of these high-end houses, they can take up to 2 years to be built. But families want in immediately. They want their kids in the community. They want their
Mhm.
kids at those schools. So they're always posting on our Facebook pages, does anyone have a house to rent? I'm looking for 2 years, 4 bedrooms, or whatever. So I decided this is something I want to jump in on. So besides the house we bought to live in, we bought a second property. We had it built. And the day I got keys, the next day I had a gentleman sign for 2 years, and I'm collecting about $4,300 a month in rent.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Also, could be a good opportunity if I feel like a lot of people in our network think about they want to kind of maybe retire closer to the mountains one day. Like
Yeah.
you could buy an investment property that makes sense now, for for you to be the end user, but in the meantime,
Yeah.
it will work really well and be in very high demand as a rental property for sure. So,
And there's great opportunities right now because some of these builders are actually building full duplexes. So you could own both sides
yeah,
because I think they're about 650 a side. So for like 1.2 or maybe it was 600 a side. For about 1.2, you could own a full duplex. So
yeah,
if you think that this town has 700 homes and it's going to have 4,500, you can only imagine the value. that it's
Hmm.
going to go up.
It's a beautiful area.
Mhm.
Really nice out there.
Absolutely. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks,
Thank
Heather.
you.
All right. We are gonna keep moving along. So,
All right. So, yeah, my name's Josh, for everyone that I haven't met yet. And today I'm going to be speaking on Okotoks. So we're just changing direction here and heading to the south of Calgary now. So just a little bit of stats about Okotoks right now. There was 51 sales in September. We've actually seen a decrease overall from last year, about 4%. And we're currently sitting at about 115 units on the market there. The interesting thing, though, is that there's still a 74% sale to listing ratio in Okotoks, which actually would indicate that it's still in a seller's market. When you look at that compared to Calgary, where things have slowed down a little bit more already, there's still quite a bit of, I guess, lower inventory in Okotoks. So that's something that I found a little bit interesting looking at. And then the total residential price there is just sitting under 614,000, which we've seen a drop of 2.6% year over year. And then just kind of looking again here a little bit further into each category. So like I mentioned there, the total residential price, just under 614,000. The detached price is 693,300. So when you compare that to Calgary, it's about a little over 50,000 cheaper for a detached property there. And then our semi-detached 586,000 row price is 446,000, and the apartments 282,000. And so go to the next one there. And so one thing I kind of wanted to speak about and shed some light on here was basement suites in Okotoks in particular. We all know them in Calgary. They do great. They're always sought after. And I feel like Okotoks maybe gets a little bit kind of forgotten about when it comes to this, but they do actually have a basement suites grant program available in Okotoks there. And just some quick information on how that works. So with the grant program, you can either have up to $5,000 rebated or up to 10,000. And with that, that's up to 50% of the construction cost that you incur. Now, for the 5,000, that would be bringing a existing illegal suite up to code, and the 10,000 would be if you're putting in a brand new suite that's not even there to begin with. So, just kind of two separate things to keep in mind there. The thing with that though is that it is a first come first serve basis, and it does sound like generally they run out of funds per year, and then it would reset and you'd be put on a wait list for that next kind of reset when more funds are become available. So that is something to keep in mind, that you'd want to be planning ahead well in advance to make sure that you get your application in. You're actually not allowed to start the application until you have all your permits in for the basement suite. So just make sure that that be something that you get in right away. And then as well, it's just their zoning for Calgary is called the traditional neighborhood zoning, or sorry, for Okotoks is, so it's a little bit different wording there, but it's all the same.
awesome. One thing I wanted to add to that, Josh, is that Okotoks I found has been a little bit ahead of Calgary in some of the zoning or what they would allow. So some areas will allow you to have a basement suite and a carriage suite if they back onto a laneway. Now, with some of the rezoning that's happened in Calgary, there is flexibility to do that, but previously that wasn't permitted. You can only have one secondary suite, whereas in Okotoks you could potentially have both. So there are some interesting properties out there that do have really beautiful carriage suites and potentially can have a secondary basement suite as well, which makes it
Yeah,
quite unique.
absolutely. Yeah.
And like people that live in Okotoks love Okotoks. Like
Hmm.
they're lifers.
It's got like a very much again, that kind of small town feel. Like you're a little bit
Yeah.
removed from Calgary, but it's only
Mhm.
15-20 minutes to the south end of Calgary there. So you're still super, super close. But Okotoks still has absolutely everything that you would ever need. How the Costco got all the major things already there. So you really don't ever have to leave Okotoks if you don't want to. Um, but still, like, you're not far away at all
Yeah.
from the south end of the city there. So it's great for, hospital employees that work at the South Health campus there. A little bit more affordability, but still, a great, not a horrible commute to go into work there. So that's one of the major, I'd say, kind of industries that people work at in Calgary there, coming from Okotoks. And so just kind of to touch on why Okotoks specifically. So there's a low supply of basement suites currently even available um, there, and particularly legal ones. So in the
Mhm.
past 180 days, I just looked at the sold data, and there was only one legal suited property that sold, and there was 11 illegal suites sold in the past 180 days. So I think that is a really good opportunity for people to come in that have that experience, bringing in a team that can come and legalize these suites, and then you're obviously able to offer or charge a little bit more for your rents there as well. Um, but the rental rates there are still very strong. I'd say they're even pretty comparable to Calgary's rates. I was looking and suites right now ranging from about 1,200 to 1,600, which is pretty in line with where Calgary is right now, but you're still able to get a property for a little bit cheaper. So I think there's some value there for sure. And yeah, just kind of touching on that again there, that about 50,000, a little bit more cheaper than Calgary for a detached property. So I think it's definitely an area to look into, and it has a lot of opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Josh. Right. Great. So I'm next. So for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Andrea Tessier. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Cochrane this evening. So for anyone who's not familiar with Cochrane, of course, it's located west of the city, so about a 20-minute drive from Calgary. And generally, the Cochrane market does follow the Calgary market in terms of trends. However, you've been seeing a few interesting things happening over the past few months. So in September, sales in Cochrane, there were 62 properties that sold, and that was pretty much in line with what we saw last year for the area. However, there was a record high of new listings coming on. So in comparison to Calgary, in Calgary, we've pushed definitely into balanced market conditions, can vary depending on community and property type. Cochrane is now moving in that direction as well, but it's been kind of following behind that trend of Calgary. We're just starting to see that balancing out within kind of the last couple of months here, whereas Calgary's been pushing towards that balanced market for the most part of this year, I would say. Um, the benchmark price in Cochrane was 584,000, just over 584,000. So when we're looking at a lot of these periphery areas, again, a little bit more affordable than in Calgary proper itself, but definitely desirable. Proximity to the mountains is a big one. So being on the west side of the city, property values always hold very well being close to the mountains. And a lot of people do live in Cochrane and easily commute into downtown Calgary, or even as an option, we actually see a lot of people that live in Cochrane and then commute to Canmore because the price of homes, like Sean's going to be talking about next, is significantly more in Canmore. We do see a lot of people that live in Cochrane and choose to commute out to Canmore because it is much more affordable. One interesting thing that we have been seeing in Cochrane that does make it really appealing for investors is that there's strong rental demand, but not a lot of supply. There just isn't a lot of multifamily development, not like a lot of apartment buildings, things like that in the town. So with that being said, there's definitely a lot of demand, not enough supply to keep up currently. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about an opportunity which we've been sharing over the last little bit, but I think it is a unique and interesting opportunity for investors to consider. So we do have an opportunity with a builder in Cochrane currently for semi-detached new builds with front attached garages. So here's the rendering here on the right. And these properties do have the ability to add legal secondary suites by the builder. And why this is so unique is we haven't seen a builder doing this for several years, probably since about 2018. Many builders in Cochrane will allow you to add a side entry, but they just don't want to deal with the suite. They don't want to have to do it themselves. So there could be a possibility that you purchase a property that has a separate entry and then you work with a contractor to add the suite. But this is the first builder in many years we've seen who will just give you the full package. So making it a very turnkey investment. So there are 2 stories on the upper unit and then a 1 bedroom basement suite in the bottom. And there's only 14 lots in this area of the development available, and 2 of them are already sold. So 12 lots in total. Not all of them necessarily will have basement suites, but what we like about this again is that high demand, low supply. It's not that you're buying on a street where both sides of the street or the whole community has basement suites, which sometimes we do see in Calgary. It's become, of course, very popular in a lot of the new construction and communities on the periphery. So this is unique because there's just going to be this strip of properties on the street. You're not competing with 20 other suited properties or plus in the area. And the builder is currently offering some unique promotions. So they're offering 30K off their pricing right now. So that's putting the price, including the cost of adding the suite, starting kind of in the high 600s. Around 680 is for the smallest floor plan. There are 3 floor plans available that could fit. And then we're offering an exclusive incentive as well with just clients of our team for 2 years of free property management. So that definitely helps on the investment side of it. And then speaking about the demand and supply for rentals, the rents there also have remained quite strong. So whereas in Calgary, in a lot of areas, we've seen just like the resale market, the rental market start to balance out a little bit and slow down. In Cochrane, rents have stayed quite strong and quite steady. So it is possible to find cash flow with these numbers and with this product, which is really exciting to see. And of course, it's a new development, so you would have a new home warranty. There are some options if you wanted to choose a couple of things on the home, or it can be very simple and turnkey as well. So something unique, and a few of the lots are backing onto a green space and would actually have mountain views from the top floor, which is really exciting and beautiful in this area. So it's located in Heritage Hills in Cochrane, which is a newer community on the west end. So if that is of interest, I think this is a unique one to consider, or just Cochrane in general, again, because there aren't a lot of secondary suites. So there's definitely a need for more rental supply in the area. All right. Now we're going to move over to Canmore.
Oh, I'm thumbs upping. Good job.
Thanks.
Just before we move on, Canmore, Cochrane, we haven't had a builder, I think you mentioned it, but since 2018 that was willing to put basement suites in, like with them doing it. There's plenty of builders who are happy to put in a side entrance for you, and you do it like Andrea has undergone herself, but to be able to put that all in the mortgage, of course, is more favorable to the investor if you can. And we did about, I think it was like 10 to 12 in a row. We're on the east side of Cochrane back in 2018. None of those people have sold, and all of them wish they bought more. And they've just had a really good experience with those properties in Cochrane, but it's never come up again. Partially because builders don't like to be the first ones doing things with a new municipality, and Cochrane doesn't have necessarily the same setup like Calgary now has, where it's this streamlined thing. So it's a little bit more like red tape and work for them, but it's honestly not that big of a deal, but I feel like they make it into a bigger deal than it is. So anyway, it's really exciting to be able to have someone on board to go through that, and I do think they're going to do well, because there's not like hundreds of these around. There's really not. So and the mountain views. So yeah, I'm really excited about it.
I just saw that Darcy had a question in there. So Darcy, what would be the anticipated rents both for the main unit and the secondary suite in Cochrane? So for these ones, for the smaller floor plan, we were estimating about 2,550 for the upper unit, and then about 1,400 for the 1 bedroom basement suite. And like
You have a
Natasha mentioned,
performer.
yeah, we do have a performer we can share, absolutely. I do own a property out there, so I did go the route of adding a suite in, like Natasha mentioned, after, because it just wasn't available. And it rents very well. I can speak to that. And we've had really wonderful tenants, lots of young families who just want to be close to the mountains. We have a couple that commutes to Canmore because they were renting, a studio apartment for twice that amount in Canmore previously. So it's much more affordable in that sense. But great tenant profile, which has been wonderful. And then Tamara asked who is the builder. It's Fifth Avenue Homes, who's we are working with there. So if you wanted more information, definitely we have a drive that has some more information on the floor plans and the pro forma and all of that as well. All right, I'll hand it over to you, Sean. Mhm.
Thanks, Andrea. That's a fantastic segue to go into Canmore. You mentioned people are renting or buying in Cochrane, working in Canmore, but this is also a fantastic opportunity for business owners or people that want to have a staff housing, I think, opportunity close enough but affordable enough for people that lives and works in Canmore. We can't stress enough that that is probably one of our biggest hurdles, either owning a business here, starting a business here, or operating a business here is staff housing. And for 600K with or a little bit more with a basement suite, and you operate that as a business or staff housing for people that works in Canmore, uh, it's a no-brainer for me and great opportunity for anybody out there that's looking into it. We're going to jump into Canmore then. Yeah, the number speaks for itself, right? It still increases. It's probably one of the most stable markets right now that we see in the residential market. We're still under 200 listings per month. And we just keep coming up and going down. And I'll share some numbers with you very shortly. Yeah? We do see a lot of increased listings over the last 30 to 60 days. I think this month has been 54, last month 64, but also then the sales market has increased. I do believe we're really on the verge of a balanced market that will give opportunities not only for actually more opportunities for buyers coming into the market so that we can see a lot of price decreases. I want to always give a caveat on the numbers that you see here. These are numbers and properties that includes the short-term rental market. And if you want to have some more distinct differentiation on what is STRs and what's a residential, please reach out. At the moment, we're getting to that phase. 14 properties listed on the market right now in Canmore for short-term rentals. That's excluding the or includes the fractionals. So it doesn't give us a lot to work with when it comes to the buyer's market or the buyers coming into the market. But this is the time. If you go to the next slide. Why Canmore? I always say, why not Canmore? You're investing in a lifestyle. You're investing into what you don't have in other markets like Calgary, Cochrane. Sorry, Heather, or um, you know, Harmony and stuff like that. I love you guys have the mountain views, but you don't have it until you come to Canmore. And that's what I wanted to point out in the slide because I was wondering from last month's segment that I introduced Canmore, what can I do differently? And I thought maybe this could be a good slide to show you of how stable the market is, but it also will tell you a little bit of the seasonality of our market. If you take in over the 5-year trend or 4-year trend, 5-year trend on a green line in October back then, and then you take currently. We did take a little dip in market prices and stuff like that due to whatever's happening on the market right now, whether it is tariffs or interest rates or job security, etc., etc. But even if you take that, I just did the math quickly here. We're looking at a 32% increase.
Wow.
In 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 s- and this graph I'm showing you right there is only single family homes. And it's the high and single family homes is the high ticket options in Canmore over 5 years. And you can see, from December, whether you take December 24 to April, you can see the ups, you can see the downs. And this is a really great graph to show you when to enter the market or when to go and shop.
Yeah.
You can see the drop from May 25 to July 5th. You can, in each year of those 5 years, you can see when we actually don't have a good buyer's market, and then it increases all of a sudden in September going on and moving forward. Um, Going on to the next slide. Um, Quickly talking about the numbers. In the last 30 days, we have 54 new listings. The month before, I think, was a little bit up at 64. 37 properties has reduced their prices. But I also want to, I mean, yes, that's a lot of listings. 54 is a lot of listings. But I also want to tell you 50% of those listings, we had new sales, 27 new sales in that same period of time. And that happened in the previous 30 days as well.
Hmm.
What really, um, what sparks my interest when it comes to buyers is that price changes. 37 properties changing prices within the last 30 days. And that is everything from land, from short-term rentals. Um, to give you an idea of those new listings, I just quickly calculated here, 24 of those new listings was over a million, between a million and 2 million, and 10 of those listings was 2 million plus. I can, where Canmore's going if we're going into the next slide. Um, it's going to move up. It's going to continue. And that's what I wanted to point out, this stable market when you investing into real estate. The fall and the winter season is the time when things increases. Um, I mentioned to Natasha and Andrea earlier, this weekend alone, I had 22 hours of showings booked. So this is the busy time when people are back into the market. We've got interest rate drops. We've got good stuff under 5% on the banks, as well as we're getting some increased listings into the short-term rental market. And when you move on to the next slide, this is kind of what excites me is the short-term rental market. Those that don't know, we just moved into a conditional sale of a really great property. First time ever uniqueness of this is a single family home that has the zoning for short-term rentability. With the structure that we are selling, this is an 8-share ownership that gives you the opportunity to enter the market at less than a one-bedroom freehold ownership is worth right now at $525,000 for an 8-share into an $8 million home. We're looking to have the possession in June 1st. And of course, this will be a revenue sharing opportunity within the whole concept. And we're looking at least in the first year to do a 30K to a 40K ROI on that 8-share. Funny enough, last week or the week before, when we did the investors tour, I referred to this uniqueness and this unique opportunity, and I referred to the Mercer Clubhouse. And today we got an email that they're actually going to list the Mercer Clubhouse that has done almost $1 million in gross revenue in the last 12 months. And they're going to list it for 7.9 plus GST.
Tell us what the Mercer Clubhouse is, Sean, for those that don't know.
Yeah, the Mercer Clubhouse is one of the most luxurious kind of townhouse setups. It's an 8 bedroom setup zone for short-term rentals. And they actually have a lock-off system that you can rent out a 5 bedroom and a 3 bedroom separately. Both units on its own has hot tubs and theater rooms, but you also can rent out the whole 8 bedrooms at the same time. During the summer months or this last summer, they were averaging between 5,500 to 6,500 per night. That just skyrocketed their gross revenue potential. This is the perfect opportunity for, I would say, for an investors group or a big, group out there that's looking for an investment opportunity. I don't see, unless Steve Hobbs or somebody out there is going to come and buy a home for 7.9 that's going to rent it
Yeah.
out. And on top of that 1 million, I have to say, the realtor did share with me that 59 of those days throughout the 365 were owner occupancy. So
Wow.
you keep that in consideration of your occupancy rate and your day or your ROI as well. That 59 days were days that they didn't rent it out, but was owner occupied. Okay. If you are interested in the STR options, there's about 3 buildings that's going to turn over within the next 3 months. And we always speculate that people are flipping those properties in those new builds. So if you're interested in a new property, be ready that there might be some flipping options available on the market. But then again, you have to, on the flip side of the coin, is with new builds turning over, there'll be increase in Airbnb inventory. And I always tell my investors, if you want to stand out on Airbnb and maximize your ROIs, is be different and stand out, whether it's a new build or doing renos on your property. But I do want to point out on the graph, which is pretty much the same or almost the same as the single family homes, but this graph is pointing out only hotel condos over the last 5 years.
Wow.
It speaks for itself. Once again, you can see the trend. Once again, the trend being from September to kind of March or April, where you can see an influx of sales. But what really excites me is that from that green graph 4 years ago at 523 we did have a little bit of dip. If you took a look at the red graph on the current criteria, you had an increase of 36% over 4 years in the value of your investment property in Canmore. That is excluding the gross revenue making per year or the net revenue making per year. You've got to take that in consideration as well. So you have a 32% increase in your investment property just on value alone. And then you have to incorporate your revenue generating as well year over
And
year.
your debt pay down, and you're paying down debt that during that time.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
I just thought something different. Otherwise,
Oh, yeah, I like
the
this
slides,
idea.
slides
Yeah.
would be the same as last one. But
No,
just to
good
give you an
job.
idea of exactly how it looks like when it comes to
Mhm.
individual family homes, but the investment property 4 years ago at 523, and you're selling now at 867.
Hmm. One little unique thing I pointed out on the bus tour as well was that just outside of Canmore on Dead Man's Flats, you're outside of the metropolitan census areas. So if you have any foreign, family members or partners you want to partner with, uh, you could do that there. You could actually do that because that is outside of the foreign buyers ban. So another little interesting thing because it doesn't really work in a lot of places, but it would work there.
That's correct. And don't forget Harvey Heights as well.
Harvey Heights too. Yes, I always
Yeah,
forget about that one.
yeah, that's also outside of the foreign ban. So if you're looking at any foreign investors that wants to enter the market, um, Harvey Heights is exempted. Deadman Flats is exempted. If you want to buy a lot, or if you want to buy a piece of land to develop, that's exempted. And there's quite a number of lots in Silvertip and Mountain Tranquility where we're investing right now,
Mhm.
which is zoned phenomenally for short-term rental options. So there's
Awesome.
yeah, there's some great unique opportunities.
Very unique. Love it. Thanks, Sean. Or was that the last slide?
I think yeah.
Cool.
That was the last slide. Perfect. Well, wanted to ask if there's any questions. I know that was a lot of different areas and a lot of content we covered. If there are any questions, we'd love to answer them. Or, of course, you can connect with the team and we can chat further about any of the areas or opportunities that we discussed tonight as well.
Thanks, Chris. I did want to point out one thing. I feel like kind of like we started this is about what we try to do here, but I also want to highlight that Alberta is still very much standing out as the place to be considering as the rest of our country. We're all dealing with economic hardships, but I do think Alberta is still a very good place to be considering to invest. And it's also what is um, building a bit of a security blanket for some people that might need it that are struggling in other areas. So, in all things, diversification is a good thing, whether we're talking about, buying active real estate or investing in stocks, being diverse. So hopefully this created a couple maybe little new ideas in the back of your mind of how to be diverse when I know the trends are what is always so overwhelming when you're online and stuff. So thinking outside the box, that's something we love. And we just obviously gave you little tidbits tonight, but can easily dive into all these things directly with you one-on-one if you want to talk more about how we can help you specifically. Awesome.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay. No
Thank you so
questions.
much, everyone.
Alrighty.
There's no questions. I think that's where we'll end it for this evening. We will have the recording up on our YouTube channel as well. So if there's anything that you want to kind of go back to in terms of slides, then it'll be available there.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.